Welcome everyone. My name is Jessica Jones and I am a registered dietitian and nutritionist within Student Health and Counseling Services here at UCSF, and today I'm going to be talking about meal planning made easy. Now, in this online presentation, we are going to discuss the top 3 meal planning pitfalls. We'll also talk about how you can become a pro at meal planning. And I will give you simple and healthy recipe and snack ideas so you have concrete ideas for making healthy and delicious meals at home at the end of this presentation. Now, I have been a dietitian for 6 years and I've worked with thousands of patients over the years, and I've noticed that there are 3 things that tend to get in the way of being successful with meal planning. So now I just want to talk about what those top 3 pitfalls are. The first pitfall is the belief that you have to make a different meal for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. This is absolutely not true, and I highly recommend that people kind of rotate between a couple of different meals for breakfast, lunch, and dinner throughout the week. So for example, maybe you do smoothies on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you do oatmeal on Tuesday, Thursday, and then on the weekends you have a little more time. Maybe you could do a brunch that includes pancakes, or maybe you'll do eggs with potatoes. But you do not have to make a different meal for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day. The second pitfall is not keeping the recipes 100% simple. I notice a lot with my patients when they get excited about meal planning, they find these complex meal plans online and they have all these fancy different ingredients, or they might go get a cookbook that has a lot of, intense recipes that, the ingredients just kind of cost a lot and also will take a lot of time to prepare. So I always recommend that people keep their recipes 100% simple. Less is always more, especially when it comes to cooking your meals at home. Now, the third pitfall I noticed with my patients is not prioritizing meal planning and creating a systematic process that works for you. Usually, patients will let meal planning kind of fall by the wayside, especially when things get busy with school or finals pop up, midterms pop up, or you have intense clinical rotations, and so meal planning just becomes not a priority. But really, I push people to think of meal planning as the ultimate act of self-care, because you're able to do your job better when you're nourishing yourself and you're not stressing out every single meal, like what am I going to have for the next meal. It's really more peaceful for you all around and less stress when you already have kind of a blueprint for what you're going to have for every meal of the day. Now, how do you make sure that you are planning healthy meals on a regular basis, especially when it comes to your lunch and your dinner? Because people get really confused with what healthy actually looks like. And this is my favorite visual for what a healthy and also tasty plate looks like. So I like to really encourage people to think about all the delicious foods that are healthy that you can have and you should have on a daily basis. So here we have 1/2 of our plate is vegetables, and that includes broccoli, salad, whatever non-starchy vegetables you choose. You can also include cauliflower, kale, you can do green beans, spinach, but 1/2 of your plate is non-starchy vegetables, and then 1/4 of your plate is your starch. So that's things like your rice. Of course, it's better to choose whole grain rice or brown rice over white rice, and you can also do whole wheat pasta or whole wheat couscous. This category would also include potatoes, peas, also corn. So that is 1/4 of your plate. That's your starch. And the last quarter of your plate is for protein. And protein can mean a lot of different things depending upon your eating habits. I have a lot of patients who are vegetarian, and so they might not have chicken for their protein. They might have something like tofu or even beans like lentils. Yes, those are starch, but those are also protein. And so if we're talking about a vegetarian diet, the lentils would actually go in the protein portion of the plate. And then, of course, you see that on the upper left-hand corner, there's a piece of fruit. And I just use that to mention that fruit should be included as part of a healthy meal plan, and I recommend that people have at least 2 fruits per day. And of course, you see on the upper right-hand side, we have our water. And I love water because it's healthy, but it's also free. So try to really make sure you get about 8 cups of water per day. And of course, that amount varies depending upon your size, also your hydration status, and the weather, and your physical activity level. But as a general rule of thumb, it's a good idea to get about 8 cups of water per day. Now, what are the basics of meal planning? What do you absolutely have to know? So we're going to go over that in this next part of the presentation. The number one thing that I recommend you start by doing is picking a day to meal plan and sticking to it. So it's really important that you add that date to your calendar and make it a non-negotiable for yourself. And if you have to negotiate that day or switch it to another day, just have that backup day already on hand. You'll then want to start with a food inventory to see what you already have so you don't double buy. And again, when you're planning your meals, you want to make sure that they are nutritionally balanced. So making 1/2 of your plate vegetables, 1/4 protein, and 1/4 starch or whole grain. Another thing that I recommend people do, if you don't already have recipes, in your repertoire, or if you don't have kind of go-to meals you like, find recipes. There are a million recipes online on the internet. You can also go into a local bookstore and look up some different cookbooks and buy those cookbooks and use those as your motivation for creating different fun and healthy meals. Again, I recommend people rotate between 2 to 3 recipes per meal category per week, which means you're not planning a new recipe for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. You're kind of mix and matching between a few different ideas. Now, once you have an idea of what you're going to make, it's really important to create a grocery list because nothing's worse than going to the store without a list and coming home with a bunch of ingredients that don't really translate into any meals. Next, you'll want to go grocery shopping. I always recommend that my patients try to map out the supermarket and start shopping in the peripherals because that's where the most wholesome foods are usually stocked. It's also important to bring a list so you can really stay focused on what you need, not what you're craving in the moment. And it's even better if you go to the supermarket after a meal or a snack so that you are more level-headed when making the decisions of what to buy and eat for the week. You'll also want to always read the nutrition facts label. And remember, don't get tricked by marketing schemes because really the terms natural, fresh, and healthy don't really mean anything in the world of nutrition. And remember that some of the healthiest foods like broccoli or cauliflower don't have any label at all because they're not sold in a package. Another thing that is really important to remember is that the more colors on your plate, the better. So make sure that you color your cart by choosing a variety of colors, especially when selecting your fruits and vegetables, because a lot of times my patients will get stuck in a rut and they might just focus on green vegetables and nothing else, but don't realize that they're missing out on the different nutritional properties like vitamins, minerals, and phytochemicals that might come in some of those other colors. Step 3 is stocking up on those food staples. In case you're not familiar with a staple, it's usually a food that's eaten regularly and often, but not always, forms a major base of your meal. Now, staples are great because they can usually be purchased in bulk, which means you're going to save money, and they also have a longer shelf life, meaning they're going to stay fresh on your shelf for a longer period of time. Some examples of my favorite staples include things like brown rice, quinoa, frozen fruit and vegetables, even oatmeal and black beans. And the great thing about staples is that many of them can be easily remixed into different kinds of meals and dishes. For example, you can have black beans in a taco, you can have them in enchiladas, you can also add them to a salad, and they really stretch the food dollar. Now, last but not least is figuring out which staples are your favorites and just making sure that you always have your pantry stocked with them. Step 4 is prep, and more prep. Meal prepping is something that I live by, and it includes doing really basic things like pre-chopping and pre-washing. I know it might seem pretty minimal, but I can promise you that doing these things will really help you to save a lot of time in the long run and also ensure that you actually eat all the healthy food that you buy. A couple of things that I like to recommend that people do are washing your greens and just having them ready to go in the fridge. You can also pre-chop things like onion, garlic, and peppers for the week, and then just have them ready to grab and toss into your salads or sautés. And I always recommend people wash all of their fruits as soon as they buy them, because this means you don't constantly have to rinse them off every single time you want to enjoy a piece of fruit. The key is to cut down the amount of steps that you will have to take in order to actually enjoy the delicious and nutritious food and snacks that you purchase. A lot of patients ask me what are my favorite recipe sites where they can find inspiration for meal planning, and here they are. Just to give you an overview of which ones are friendly for which type of diet, so Minimalist Baker, Sweet Potato Soul, Cookie and Kate, and Nutrition Stripped are all vegetarian friendly. And if you're looking for gluten-free specific recipes, Minimalist Baker and Nutrition Stripped are also both gluten-free. And then Pinch of Yum, Budget Bites, Abby's Kitchen all include meat recipes as well. So if you're somebody who doesn't have any specific diet that you follow, those sites are perfect for you. And I love Cook Smarts at the bottom because that gives you a lot of really good tips for how to prepare vegetables or how to make a saute or different sauces or seasonal ingredients. And Cook Smarts also offers meal plans for recipes. So if you need a little bit more guidance for what to have for dinner every night and the portions to make and a grocery shopping list, that gives you a little bit more structure. For the last and final portion of this presentation, I'm going to go over some concrete recipe ideas that you can try at home. Now, I just want to point out that the majority of these recipes are located on the Student Health website. So that's studenthealth.ucsf.edu/nutrition, and you'll find most of these recipes there. But some of my favorites are egg muffins, which basically is just eggs mixed with vegetables and cooked in a muffin tin. And you can have those over a few days. Maybe you have like a couple of muffins with a slice of whole wheat toast and avocado and enjoy that for a really balanced and nutritious breakfast. Another one of my favorites is overnight oats, which is in the bottom right-hand corner. And for this recipe, all you do is add Greek yogurt with rolled oats, unsweetened almond milk, chia seeds, berries, and maybe a pinch of maple syrup. You leave that in the fridge overnight, and then the next day, the oats expand into a delicious, creamy oatmeal. And for those of you who are more on the go in the morning, a simple breakfast like a slice of whole wheat toast topped with avocado and maybe even an egg would be a good option for you. And for a vegan version, you can take away the egg and then just mix the avocado with white beans and then top with pumpkin seeds to give a little bit more protein. And of course, you could do something as simple as a piece of whole wheat toast topped with peanut butter and maybe sliced banana or blueberries. And that is another great, quick, and easy breakfast option just to make sure that you get something nourishing in you before you leave for the day. Next up, we have lunch and dinner. So here are a bunch of different recipes. Most of them are on the Student Health website, as I mentioned previously, but just to give you a couple of ideas, one of my favorites is the zucchini lasagna on the bottom left-hand corner. All you do is layer zucchini with ricotta, onions, mozzarella, and tomato sauce, and you bake in the oven and you get this delicious lasagna that's full of flavor. One of my favorite quick go-to lunch recipes is a stuffed sweet potato, and you can just stuff the potato with broccoli, cheese, cook it in the microwave. You can even add salsa on top if you want to get fancy. But this is a nice, healthy lunch idea that doesn't require a lot of time. On the right, I have black bean chili and a quinoa enchilada dip, and these recipes are great because they are both one-pot dishes, and I highly recommend one-pot dishes if you don't want to make a huge mess in the kitchen and you also want to make dishes that are simple, that stretch a long way. On this slide, I just want to show you an example of a really simple salad recipe that you can make for lunch that doesn't even require any cooking, but that's definitely going to be filling and give you a good balance of nutrition. So all you need is baby spinach or arugula, and if you live near Trader Joe's, I love recommending them because they have a lot of healthy pre-cooked foods. So you'll see the steamed lentils and then the steamed and peeled baby beets in the middle. And then they also have pre-cooked frozen rice and quinoa. On this slide, I have one of my all-time favorite lunch recipes that is super simple, requires no time really, and is really cost effective. And this is just a peanut butter and jam sandwich. Now, on the next slide, I'll show you how I make my simple jam. But here, I just want to outline that, you want to try to do a whole wheat or whole grain bread that has at least 3 grams of fiber per slice. And when you're choosing a peanut butter, just make sure to choose a peanut butter that doesn't have any added ingredients. So you want it just to have peanuts and maybe a little bit of salt. And of course, you can serve this with a glass of milk, or if you are dairy-free, you can do almond milk or soy milk. I would recommend soy milk if you were dairy-free because you're going to get a little more protein in the meal by having that. And you can have a piece of fruit like an apple, which is going to be really filling and satiating, and maybe even a cup of baby carrots as well. On this slide, I just want to point out how to make my really simple 3-ingredient chia seed jam. So all you need is 1 cup of berries, 1 to 2 tablespoons of chia seeds, and 1 teaspoon of honey. And you take all those ingredients, you mix them in a food processor, and then you have a delicious, healthy jam to serve with your sandwich. Now that concludes my meal planning made easy presentation, and now we're going to go over a brief overview to talk about everything that we learned. The first thing that you want to remember is that when done correctly, meal planning can help you save time, money, and stress, and it can also ensure that you eat healthfully throughout the week. Number 2 is dedicate 1 day to meal planning per week and start by doing a food inventory, then choosing which recipes you will make. And step 3 is keeping things really simple by rotating between a few meals for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. Step 4 is to choose meals that have 10 ingredients or less, and remember that when it comes to meal planning, less is always more. Step 5 is to make sure all of your meals are balanced with a healthy, complex carb, vegetables, protein, and a portion of healthy fat on your plate, like a few slices of avocado or a tablespoon of olive oil. And step 6 is to always freeze those leftovers so that you can enjoy them on days when you really don't have any time to cook. Again, I'm Jessica Jones, a Student Health and Counseling Services registered dietitian, and you can find most of the recipes we talked about on the Student Health website. That's studenthealth.ucsf.edu/nutrition, and I highly recommend that you sign up for our nutrition newsletter. Thank you so much for attending this presentation today, and I hope that you learned a thing or two for how you can upgrade your health and your diet by making meal planning a part of your weekly routine. Thanks for listening.